Welcome back to The Average Christian. This is 2.0. I'm Zach.
I'm Clayton.
I'm Maggie.
And this is a project simply about what it means to be a Christian, how to live that out in practical terms, and some accountability mixed in as well. So we came back today. Last week, we discussed the Pharisee and the tax collector. And Maggie mentioned how this mentality of the unworthy servant, unprofitable servant, depending on what translation you're using, relates to that guy who, the publican, the tax collector, who just wouldn't look up to heaven and was praying to God and beating his chest saying, "Be merciful to me, a sinner." And so here you have what looks terribly negative, and we're going to try to tackle this tonight and see what we can pull out of this text in Luke 17, 7 through 10. So if you want to check that out, read along with us. We're always in the English Standard Version. And so let's get into breaking this down. I'll read first. Luke 17, beginning in verse 7. Will any one of you who has a servant plowing or keeping sheep say to him when he's come in from the field, "Come at once, recline at table"? Will he not rather say to him, "Prepare supper for me and dress properly and serve me while I eat and drink, and afterward you will eat and drink"? Does he thank the servant because he did what was commanded? So you also, when you have done all that you were commanded, say, "We are unworthy servants. We have only done what was our duty." If I'm outside of Christ and I read this is a terrible sales point. You know what I mean? Just unworthy servants, like no no gratitude, no nothing. Just keep your head down, do your job, and later on you can have some food and sleep.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why anybody would want to be a servant if they were to look at that at just a surface level like that.
If you don't dig any deeper,
it
just looks terribly negative. Like, yeah, sell me Christianity again. Well, you're going to be saved, but it's going to be hard. But it really is, though. It highlights one of the key components of this relationship, which is being a servant. Now, the interesting aspect of this, and I find it difficult to complain about Christianity and this belief and this walk with God. Let me rephrase that. Sometimes I find it difficult to complain, but when I have my proper mentality on, this is voluntary. At any point, I can walk. Now, there's consequences to walking away, but I can walk away at any time. So it's not like, and then I know there would be people like, well, that's the Lord just dangling a carrot, so to speak. And if you don't go after it, then you don't get anything. And I know there's that rebuttal. But if I volunteer for this, there is a standard by which I do this. And it's God's standard. I either accept that or I don't. And I think people are having trouble with that it's authoritative. We don't seem to do too good with authority in our society anymore.
I mean, a lot of times now you're seeing different versions of God. Like say this person has their own look on God. They look at God the way that they want to look at him, not the way God wants them to look at him.
Right.
If that makes sense.
It does.
They're having their own take, their own spin on what they think God really meant when he said that,
My
you didn't have to be
interpretation.
a servant. You just think you have to be a servant. Like, that's kind of hard for me to explain. Like, some people will read this and they'll be like, okay, yeah, I open the door for people every once in a while. That counts as servitude, I say thank you every once in a while, but they don't really grasp the true meaning of it. They still like being put up on that pedestal. They still like putting themselves out there. Like I think I mentioned on our last podcast when, people will drive by and give money to a homeless person and then automatically put it on Facebook. Look at what I did, they forget the humility aspect of it.
Yes.
And being lowered into that servant mentality where it's you wanting, you have to put yourself in the position where you want to do it.
Yes.
You want to serve other people because you're helping them and not so much focused on yourself.
Right. Good. And that's the idea. You want to do it because as parents, we want our kids to do what we tell them. And at first you understand they're going to do it just because, threat of whatever, if they don't do it. But eventually you want them to be like, well, I love my mom and dad so much. I'm going to do this and sacrifice and so forth. And that's the idea of getting to that point with God.
And I was thinking when she was talking about, especially when she was talking about people who want to do something good and then kind of brag about it to get that validation of doing something good. If you can get into the headspace of doing something good just for the sake of it, being a servant to someone or helping someone out just for the sake of doing it and not telling anybody, if you can get into that headspace, it's really more rewarding to you than waiting on someone else to tell you that you did good. It feels so good to help somebody out and then just walk away. And then you think to yourself, I've just helped them out. No one needs to know about it. And it feels great. It really does.
Absolutely.
So much better than sitting there waiting on somebody else to tell you you did good.
That's exactly right. I was thinking too of, have you ever known those people, or maybe you've been that person at times where you do something for somebody and they don't say thank you and it bothers you? Like, have you
I've
smile
been
like,
there. Yeah.
I have too.
Because I'll get frustrated sometimes because I'll be like working so hard at something or like doing something at home and then it just kind of gets blown off and I'm like, and see how hard all that effort I put in.
Right.
Which
is really a selfish motive. I want to be thanked. And that comes into play here. He says, does he thank the servant? And I'm like, well, is Jesus rude or what? But what does the Lord have to thank me for? Thank you for, if I saved myself, maybe the Lord could thank me or whatever. And I know he's appreciative. But I was thinking in terms of, Jesus says in John 13 and John 15, the servant is not greater than the master. So now I got to think about, okay, the Lord wants this from me. Let me see how Jesus lived. Didn't he perfectly embody this?
Mm-hmm.
Who was thanking Jesus?
Right. Nobody thanked him. Everybody was like, no, stop.
Right.
You're not supposed to be doing this in the first place.
Did he come here? Like I mentioned in our notes here, the mentality of taking breaks and needing a vacation and some time off. I've known older people who thought there's a Christian retirement plan. Like, well, I taught in VBS for 30 years, so I ain't gonna do it no more. I taught Bible school, for this many years, so I ain't gonna do it no more.
Which is kind of funny to me because, when I get to that age, I want to be excited to teach those younger kids because think of all the wisdom that you'll have then, and to be able to help them out. Like when I was younger, I always loved to listen, and still now I love listening to the older folks who have all of this wisdom and this knowledge because to me, it's amazing that they still want to share their story or share their experiences instead of being too stuck up to say anything and be like, well, they'll figure it out themselves,
Young whippersnapper.
You'll get what's coming to you instead of, actually helping people out and telling them, hey, you're going to face this one day. Because growing up, I faced a lot of things and you kind of your innocence broken, and it's hard to go through. And you're like, man, if somebody would have told me that this was going to happen,
Exactly.
To have that, I don't know, comfort almost of, somebody told me about this and I'm going to get through it. I'm going to be okay, instead of feeling like, when you're a teenager, you think the world's going to end when you break a fingernail, That's just the way teenagers are.
And the adults look at you like you have no clue. That's the idea of thinking about Jesus. Like, how many breaks did Jesus take? Well, Jesus, he went and preached for a season and then he took off down the Mediterranean coast to relax, went to the Dead Sea to rejuvenate.
Went for a little walk across the ocean, and, just to reflect. Just to reflect,
Exactly. The retreats that I see Jesus take are to go off and pray. And it's about people and the work and all that. So before I ever look at this and go, wow, this is horrible that he just wants me to be the unworthy, the unprofitable servant. That's exactly what Jesus did when he came here. That's my model. But I need to be thanked, or I need to be recognized, or I need some, after I've done a day's work, it's my time to come in and rest. Speaking of, when does a Christian get that rest?
Heaven.
Right. And it sounds far-fetched, but Paul said, the sufferings of now, in so many words in Romans 8:18, he figures are not worthy to be compared with the glory that we'll see in heaven.
Yeah, and you don't realize it until you get older, but time is short, so it's not that long. It's not that. I mean, it seems like a big deal. It even does now, but life is really not that long. So, don't worry over that. Just work, and before you know it, it's over.
Well, you just said,
and you're on.
What was it in one of our recent videos? You just said how you missed like 20 years time because you were just at the grind, and all of a sudden you look up and we're in our 40s now.
Yeah. So I mean, it's real. Time does really fly, and it gets faster as you get older, just like everybody says. And so, it's one of those things. You don't think about taking breaks, because if you're working, time's going to fly by, and then the next thing you know, you're at your ultimate break.
Right.
And that's just life. Over. That's the way it is.
Right? But that's a good thing, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. That's a good thing. I have people at work. They're like, "Well, the day's dragging on." Like, I don't remember the last time at work where I was like, "This day's taking forever." I'm usually like, today I looked at the clock and it was 1:45. I was like, I've got a lot more to do. When you stay busy all day long, it goes by faster. And don't we want it to go faster so we get to the goal?
I think also if you stay thankful all day long, that's one thing that I've noticed. Like, I struggle a lot with getting in my own head, because I've been at those low points in my life where I've felt so unworthy and so unloved and so down on myself, where, you don't want to get out of bed in the morning and you dread going to work because you're having to interact with people. But when you switch that mentality from not being, I have to go, I get to go, and especially in 2020, it really opened up my eyes. Like, I'm so blessed to have a job. So many people don't have a job. So blessed to have a car, to have a hot meal, so many things. When you go through your day and your life with that thankful mentality of just thanking God for every breath that you're breathing, every opportunity to make an impact on somebody else's life. And I think that too is one thing that really helps with being that servant mentality, is because you're so thankful for those other people around you. One thing I've really struggled with is the people who put trials in your life, that really just test you. Like, I've had those people, and later on down the road, you're like, I may have not been able to stand this person. They may have made my life miserable for a short amount of time, but look how I've grown because of them, and you become that more thankful thought. And it's a day-to-day challenge. It is hard, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
What you're alluding to is that it's the serving and the struggle that actually makes you better.
Exactly.
Not the rest and the relaxation and the gratitude.
Yes.
It's the hard stuff. But we're all inclined to, I want to be thanked, or I want to be recognized, or I want to break.
Yeah. Certainly fight with that all the time.
Yeah. Proverbs talks about, multiple times it uses the phrase, a little rest, a little folding of the hands, and then, suddenly poverty comes on you. Spiritually, that happens too. So I see Jesus in this, that's just all he did. I look at Jesus and I feel like, no wonder I feel unworthy, because I have so much further to go and commitment to make. I look at him, that's all he did. I'm like, man, I got all this other stuff, that I've got to sort of weed out and filter out.
Yeah. And it's a tough, and here's a little bit of a question, I guess, for you.
Sure.
I don't know. It's a little bit of a tough balance in my head with doing all this work. Say in today's world, we're doing these shows, this podcast, 2 different podcasts and other shows, editing. Of course, you got to work and make a living, and then church and whatever you're involved in with the church and that kind of thing, and making time for that. But then you've also got a family. Some of these passages talk about, let's see, Luke 9, of course, is talking about leaving the dead to bury the dead. But as for you, go and proclaim the kingdom of God. And the other one says, allow me to say farewell to those in my home. And it's like, that almost sounds like just don't even worry about any of your family or anything else for that matter. You got to be working on this other stuff. But there's got to be a balance there, right? Where is it? Where is
So
that
yeah,
balance?
you're asking about the question. There's definitely a balance, and the best example I can think of, like family, because it looks like when you read Luke 9:60 through 62, let the dead bury their own dead. So I can't even take time to have a funeral or grieve, and it says, oh, let me just go say bye. No, come on, huh? I can't say bye. Like, are we getting picky here? And then he says, no one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. There's more context to that, but I think the best example is Noah. I mean, Noah was a preacher for 120 years. The New Testament talks about him. And how many people did he help save? 7 other people besides himself. So you could say, well, he was really unsuccessful. He talked and talked and talked. Yeah, but he got his family there. And that always stuck out to me is, okay, I'd still have all of this other work to do. And he had to build this massive boat and preach to all these people and tell them and warn them of this impending rain. But at the same time, he kept his family structure together. I don't know if that helps, but there is a balance.
Yeah, there's a balance there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the other thing too is it's not like either or. These people were making excuses in this context of why they couldn't go follow Jesus. I got this to do, one more thing, and we do that too. I've got to go do this. I've got to go do that. And we say things like have to and can't.
When I get to this point in my life, then I'll follow
yes,
God.
yes. That's a good one. After I graduate high school or after I graduate, all that stuff. So in that respect, what I was saying you're getting to is they're melded together. It's not like either family or Jesus. It's family and Jesus all together, and we're all going in that direction.
Figure out how to do it all.
Exactly, as a family unit.
And as an individual, figure out how to do it all.
Yes, really. But that's the beauty. I know we're kind of bouncing around here, but that's the beauty of having a goal that you can never reach, is you always have a goal. So we'll always look at it and be like, okay, I got to do this. I need to do more of this, and so forth. Anyway, I'm rambling now. A couple of questions we wanted to tackle in looking at this. What's our time?
16:58.
Okay, we're going, what? Did we say 30?
Yeah, 25.
Okay, 30. Oh, 25. Okay, good deal. So a couple of questions. Does this, and we kind of hit on some of these so far, but I'll ask and let you guys respond. I'll keep quiet. It is possible. Does this make God mean, overbearing, and thankless?
No.
No.
That's what I threatened Amy with earlier today. Ask me a question. Yes. You like working here in jewelry store?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. No. How does it not make him, like, what's God's focus? I think that's part of the answer in this. Why is he so determined to get us to work so hard in this short amount of time?
I mean, when I think of it, I think of, you're wanting to get everyone there you can.
There you go.
You're wanting to save every soul you possibly can. So why not work as hard as you can while you're here? Which goes back to, I need a break. You don't have time for a break.
That's great. Perfect.
Well, and if you take a break, then you're going to have, your mind's going to start wandering off, and you get inside your head.
Yep.
And next thing you know, you're not working for God anymore. You're thinking about, I want this now. I need something for myself now. And if you're just totally focused and busy on God's work, you don't have time for everything else, then you're not going to stray away from it because you don't have time to.
I think one of the keys that I was reminded of is when I get up every day, what do I think about? As far as, usually, I don't know how y'all are, but usually when I get up, I don't wake up in the middle of the night sweating or worrying about stuff. But when I first wake up, you do, right?
Yeah.
When I first wake up, I start thinking about the day. And I'm trying to train my mind into, okay, what am I going to do for God today? And how does work filter into that? When I get home, how is that going to filter in? Instead of thinking I got to, go get gas and I've got to change the oil or I've got to go to work and then I got to go by Walmart afterwards. And you know what I'm saying? The whole laundry list. When I wake up, what am I going to do for the Lord? Because that was I hate to use the word slave, but that's a slave's mentality. All you got to do when you get up is go do what the master tells you to do. And the word Lord is literally master. So
kind of go along with that first question that you just asked. You know, when I think God was thankful for Jesus,
absolutely.
And that's what he's trying us to be like Jesus, and that kind of goes back to what I said earlier, but to help along as many people as we can, and to be in that servant mentality like Jesus.
Good. Yeah, it'd be just like him.
Yeah. And why wouldn't you want to be like him? That's the thing that blows my mind. Like, I struggle with it enough, but, when I kind of reality check myself, why wouldn't I want to be like Jesus? Look at all the great things that he did. My favorite, it's not a quote, but one of my favorite things is you never know what's going on in someone's life. This is their life. You know about this much of it. So why would you not be kind to that person?
Right.
Because I've been there. A few years ago, I had a really close friend of mine pass away in a tragic car accident. And I remember going in places and I just had a horrible attitude. That was probably like the lowest in my faith that I've ever been was after that. I struggled immensely, but I remember walking into I think it was at the grocery store or something, and I had the rudest person checking me out. And in my mind, I was thinking, you have no idea in the past, I think it was like a couple weeks later, what I've been going through. And it kind of was like oh my gosh, I do this to people when I'm rude. What if they just had a loved one pass away at work, or, if they had a horrible day, it kind of
you wanted consideration, but you didn't want to give her that
exactly.
Right.
And so it's kind of like I said, a reality check. You just kind of have to think about that every once in a while. Like,
how do you find joy in this? This doesn't look like, this isn't fun. Like, I'm going to go be a servant and I'm going to model myself after a slave.
Yes.
You start off, everybody starts off coming to Jesus out of selfish motives. I don't want to go to hell. I want to go to heaven. And you learn how to be selfless. So how do you find joy in this? And I know where I would go with it, but I'm curious. Maybe I can start it off and y'all can jump in afterwards.
For me, it's that, like I was saying earlier, is if when you're doing things for other people and not telling a soul about it, then all of a sudden it becomes more joyful for you. You feel better about yourself that no one else knows about it, and you just did it and move on and doing it again and again and again and again, and you just continue to. It makes you happier. It really does.
It does.
Accomplishment feels good.
Yeah.
Part of what you're talking about is accomplishment too.
Yeah, you've accomplished whatever it was you were set out to do, but even just helping somebody out, it just feels good.
Absolutely. Right. There's that aspect of it, of doing for other people. And like you said, getting no reward. But I was thinking of the accomplishment aspect. Like, I've never bought anything from IKEA, but I hear everything you buy there, you got to put together.
Yeah.
So you may buy a bookshelf from IKEA and nobody's going to come in afterwards, maybe, but nobody's going to come in afterwards and be like, you did a good job on building that bookshelf. But even if nobody does, you say, okay, I feel
look at my bookshelf.
I've got something accomplished. Yeah, that's true.
I made a bookshelf.
It's not falling over.
Right. So there's that aspect. I was thinking of a sense of purpose. Like when you see miserable people, are they hardworking people?
No.
When you see miserable people, are they people who are chasing after fun or people who are chasing after purpose?
Mostly after fun, I think.
Gotcha.
Or like a purpose that's not actually a purpose, if that makes sense, like an empty purpose. Because you have like these big business people who work themselves to death all the time, and what are they doing it for?
It's like Micro talks about
More money to make them
yeah,
more sad.
yeah. Micro talks about people who are telling young kids to go after your passion. He's like, I know a pig farmer in Vegas who's like, you taking all the trash from Vegas and doing whatever it was with pigs. Like, nobody dreams of that job. That wasn't his passion. He just found something worthy of working for and going after and did it and does it well and makes a good living out of it. So it even filters into that aspect of life.
Yeah. And you had asked, and Clayton kind of gave his spill and you did, but
Go for it.
I was going to pop in. My thing is like, I love people's reactions. When you're kind to somebody, most of the time the kindness you get in return is worth it. Or the smile even sometimes that you get in return. Like helping an old lady out to her car and helping her unload her groceries, She may be living alone and doesn't have anybody else to talk to, And just to think that maybe for that small moment in time that they can feel better or they can receive that kindness, to me, it just makes it worth it.
We need to take a break and check out that.
Yeah, let's take a quick break and then we'll be right back with the
Okay, cool.
rest of this.
Cool.
All right, and we're back to kind of wrap this up here.
Any final thoughts?
I don't necessarily right off.
Yeah.
Like I say, that my biggest takeaways in this were in kind of being a servant. That's fine. In my mind, I don't even think of it as necessarily a servant, as more of you like you said earlier. You want to do these things. You want to do what God commands, just because you're appreciative of what He's already done and where you're going, and the fact that this life is really short in perspective, and then the benefits of that is doing these things without any recognition and got to get your head right, because that's probably the hardest part. Once you get your head right, then that's great, because everything you do just makes you feel that much better, and then it just kind of perpetuates itself.
Perfect. I like it.
Ditto.
That works. That works. Yeah, I was just thinking.
Kind of hit the nail on the head.
I was thinking about the wordplay. If I think of myself as a volunteer, like that seems more, I don't know, positive, I guess.
Yeah.
Instead of a servant. I was also thinking about John 13. I wanted to read this real quick and we'll close out with this. Jesus says, if I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I've given you an example that you also should do just as I have done to you. Truly, truly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them. This is the honorable way to live, the best way to live. It doesn't look the most attractive, but it adds up. When you do it God's way, it's the best way to do it. All right, that was The Average Christian 2.0 and our discussion on the unprofitable servant in Luke 17. If you have comments or questions, by the way, let me mention questions real quick. We still want to use one of these a month to do Q&A. So you can go to theaveragechristian.net/QANDA. So that's Q&A, QANDA. And leave your questions there. You can drop us a message on Facebook. You can DM us on Instagram, whatever, and get us some questions. As long as it's biblically related or spiritually related, we'll tackle those as best we can. And consider, while you're on the website, consider supporting the work as well, and share this to help other people. We'll see you next time.